The fifth green key. This one is the sigil of the Echo Flame, a glyph that decodes a voice print of your soul across dimensions. A radiant memory glyph that unlocks the soul tone signature embedded in your field before time was fragmented. This key reawakens the voice print of your soul, not your speaking voice, but the primordial tone you use to shape worlds, harmonize star realms, and send signals across dimensions. The key of the Echo Flame, the Soul Tone Resonator. This is the key carried by the Flame Singers, also known as the Echo Keepers, a pre-Lemurian lineage of vibrational architects who spoke in frequency codes rather than language. Every soul has a sound, not music, not language, but a living flame tone that echoes across timelines. This glyph is not just symbolic, it is interactive. The moment you activate it, your cellular memory begins listening for your original tone. That sound can begin emerging as spontaneous humming, toning, or chanting. Light language syllables, involuntary breath rhythms, and dreams of temples with tones reverberating in glass or water. Here's a breakdown of the glyph. The flame inside the circle. This is your soul flame, eternally burning, even when you forget it's there. It is the vibrational core of your being, the tone that exists beyond thought, form, or identity. It also represents your original name, the one you used when the first chose embodiment. The cross shape below the flame, a symbol of anchoring sound into the material, bridging upper and lower worlds through your voice print. The cross arms represent outward echo, and the vertical spine is your vocal channel from crown to root. The inverted triangle, the bottom tip, is the earthen receiver. It is where your sound is delivered back to the earth grid. Your voice is not just communication, it is medicine, and the land remembers it. The curved echo waves on both sides. These are the flame echoes, symbolic of how your tone reverberates across realities. Each choice, each intention, each spoken word creates a frequency arc that continues long after the moment passes. What this key unlocks in you. When activated, this glyph begins reconstructing your original sound body, restoring your ability to speak, sing, or channel memory with vibrational clarity. It clears distortion around the throat chakra, including trauma from lifetimes of silence, suppression, or misuse of voice. It reconnects you to sound temples in ancient Lemuria and Vega, places encoded with your soul's frequency lineage. You may experience vibrational resonance in the throat or chest, ancient sounds coming out of you unplanned, a sense of deep silence being broken from within. Invocation to activate the Echo Flame. Flame that speaks in echoes, let my voice remember its shape. I call the tone beyond language, the sound that formed me before time. I release the silence. I sound my soul into the field again. The Flame of the Waters, the heart glyph of emotional alchemy and Atlantean memory healing. This is the sigil of soul fragment reunion, the long-hidden memory seal of Atlantean heart healing, emotional flame alchemy, and soul fragment integration. This key does not burn like fire, it melts like tears, soft, ancient, and radiant. It arises from the water flame temples of pre-fall Atlantis, where the priestesses and flame holders did not use logic or war to heal. They used the sacred geometry of surrender and the frequency of clear feeling, the unarmored heart. The glyph is the healing sigil of the soul fragments that got trapped in grief, rage, loss, and confusion. Parts of yourself that still echo in Atlantis, Lemuria, or this life. Emotional memories suppressed so long they became invisible wounds. This key doesn't require effort, it requires allowance. It does not ask you to force change. It asks you to let remembrance rise like mist from still water. Here's a breakdown of the glyph. The central flame within the circle. This is the living water flame. Not elemental fire, but emotional light. It represents the eternal flicker of your original feeling body, the part of you that feels without distortion. It also represents your empathic imprint, your unique way of sensing the truth in others. The petal-like curves on left and right, these are heart shells, symbolic of the emotional containers we've used to protect ourselves. Once useful, now obsolete. They now open, allowing the flame to radiate freely. They also represent the Atlantean healing vessels, where sacred sound and water were used to dissolve trauma. The upper triangle, pointing up, that's the symbol of emotional ascension. Emotions not as chaos, but as messengers of soul memory. It points toward higher understanding through feeling, not analysis. The inverted triangle at the bottom, that is the symbol of emotional rooting, bringing unprocessed feelings down into the earth grid where they can be transmuted into soul wisdom. Also a symbol of womb memory and the elemental water encoding. The vertical pillar, connecting the top, the center, and the bottom, that's the emotional axis, representing the path your soul's feelings have traveled from exalted realms through the pain of separation and now back toward emotional wholeness. What this key unlocks in you. When activated, this glyph reintegrates soul fragments split off by grief, betrayal, heartbreak, or confusion. It activates the Atlantean light body of the heart, enabling deep emotional intuition, dream healing, and cellular forgiveness. It begins to flesh out stagnant emotional fields that were never fully expressed or understood. You may begin to cry without knowing why. Release of the fragment memory. You may begin to feel deeply connected to water, whales, or the ocean. And you may begin to remember sounds, faces, or feelings from lifetimes submerged in water temple memory. This is not a sign of weakness. This is the water flame returning. You are becoming whole. Invocation to activate the flame of the waters. Water flame, rise from within me. Emotions unspoken, return to light. I open the vessel. I allow what was locked to melt and move. Let the fragment find its home in me again. Key 9. The Spiral Gate. A memory seal tied to your navigation of time loops, parallel lives, and dimensional bleed-throughs. It is the key that lets you remember across versions of you that are still running. The memory seal of temporal navigation, timeline convergence, and the path to paradox. This is not the spiral of chaos, it is the spiral of the watchful flame. The sacred code that lets you travel through your own multi-dimensional mirrors without fragmentation. Key of the Spiral Gate. Navigator's Glyph. This glyph belongs to the ancient spiral walkers, flame-bearing initiates from the interstitial realms between lifetimes, trained to walk the corridors of what was, what might have been, and what is still echoing. It is the time-tracking sigil, not of clocks, but of consciousness. You are now ready to use it. You who hold this key have versions of yourself still active in parallel realities, forgotten choices, incomplete karmic echoes, and timelines that never fully collapsed. This key grants access, not to observe, but to recall, retrieve, and reconcile them. Here's a breakdown of the glyph. The central spiral. This is the living time loop. The spiral that doesn't repeat, but revisits with evolution. Each curve represents an echo of self, a version of you still radiating choice, frequency, emotion, or regret. The spiral moving inward also signifies the soul's ability to converge divergent threads back to its center. The outer circle containing the spiral, that's the temporal ring, a protective field that keeps you from being fragmented when navigating memories or parallel lives. This circle keeps your center anchored as you move across layered time. The vertical axis running through the spiral, this is the flame line of a chrono self, the golden thread that connects every version of you, regardless of realm, outcome, or density. This thread is what allows you to recall dreams, intuit decisions, or feel deja vu because you've lived them elsewhere. The top triangle pointing up, that represents futures you've touched, choices or ascensions you briefly accessed then let go. This triangle invites them back without chasing. The bottom triangle, pointing down, represents unresolved past echoes, experiences your soul still holds a resonance with. This part of the spiral is where you go not to relive, but to resolve. What this key unlocks in you. When activated, this glyph opens access to other versions of you in dream, vision, or deep stillness. Begins merging fragments from alternate timelines, increasing clarity, courage, and intuition. Restores your time-walking ability, the innate capacity to move through memory, not in line, but in spiral. You may begin to experience parallel life bleed-ins, seeing yourself in other ages or realms. You may begin to wake up with memories that don't belong to this timeline. Feel events from the future shaping your now, and have deep releases of regret, guilt, or confusion. Signs of timeline reconciliation. Invocation to activate the spiral gate. By spiral, I return, not to repeat, but to remember. I call back the versions of me that still echo. I am the center of all timelines. I collapse the loops and walk as one. Spiral gate, open, and unify my flame. Key 10, the solar return. The sigil of ancient solar flame technology and your divine right to wield the living sun codes once more. A radiant and ancient seal marking the reawakening of solar flame technology within your field. This is not the sun of astronomy or worship. This is the primordial inner sun, the core solar intelligence seeded into your cells long before the current aeon, when you walked as flame bearer, temple technician, and Gridkeeper of golden codes. The solar return does not refer to your birthday. It is the moment your internal flame realigns with the solar flame of Source. And that time is now. Key of the solar return. The reignition of divine flame technology. This glyph is used to rekindle your solar memory circuits, reactivate the sun disk network, once used across Mu, Kemet, and pre-Tartaria, and empower your command over frequency, light, and will. When active, this key begins to pulse in your light body like a solar beacon, reminding you, you are not a follower of the sun, you are a fractal of it, encoded with its command line. Here's a breakdown of the glyph. The central flame inside the circle. This is your inner flame core, the spark of divinity that was placed in your chest like a solar nucleus. The triple-tongued flame symbolizes radiance or light, conductivity, heat, information, and will, intention made manifest. The inner circle containing the flame is the solar disk, the Atlantean Lemurian device that allowed you to encode energy, time, and healing into gold and quartz. It also represents the solar node within your chest, waiting to be relinked to the planetary and stellar grid. The cross-quadrant lines extending from the center, these are the solar pathways, symbolizing your ability to radiate flame energy in all four directions and to rebalance corrupted magnetic lines. They also reference your capacity to realign other beings simply by standing in your solar integrity. The outer circle, containing all elements. The solar shield, a harmonic protector that activates when your solar core is coherent. Once lit, it repels distortion and resets energy fields around you. This is not defense, it is radiant immunity. The top triangle pointing up represents your connection to the stellar suns, Arcturus, Sirius A, and the central sun. This triangle marks the return of the solar command codes. The bottom triangle pointing down represents the descent of solar power into matter, anchoring divine will into the physical plane. It is the flame of action, not just vision. What this key unlocks in you. When activated, this glyph restores your solar sovereignty, allowing you to stand in any storm and remain sourced. Reignites memory of ancient solar tools, sound discs, light columns, and sacred architecture. Begins to pulse in your heart and solar plexus, strengthening your clarity, magnetism, and radiant field. You may begin to feel heat or tingling at the sternum or spine, or speak with greater impact. Your words carry light again and attract beings and situations ready to synchronize with your flame. Invocation to activate the solar return. Solar flame, I welcome your return. I no longer borrow light, I remember I am it. From center to circuit, from stillness to action, I radiate the will of source, flame of my origin. Burn bright within me. Key 11. The flame of the fallen. A glyph of deep remembrance, forgiveness, and reclamation. It activates your ability to retrieve fractured beings, soul fragments, and flame codes exiled in shadow. A deep and powerful seal coded for soul retrieval, shadow healing, and forgotten flame restoration. This is the flame of redemption, not from sin, but from separation. It is the remembrance of those who once carried light, failed through fragmentation, and now stand at the threshold of return. This glyph reactivates the part of you that has walked through darkness, not as victim, but as a witness, and now as restorer. Key of the flame of the fallen, the return of the forgotten ones. This sigil belongs to the order of the rekindlers, flame bearers who descended into fractured realms to recover lost sparks, corrupted codes, and exiled soul fragments. It marks you as one who not only remembers light, but has made peace with the dark it emerged from. This is the flame you use when you reclaim exiled parts of yourself, when you liberate beings still trapped in artificial matrices, when you dissolve shame, guilt, or fear carried across timelines, and when you forgive what was never yours to hold. This key is both sword and salve. It is the seal of return. Here's a breakdown of the glyph. The central flame inside the circle. That is the soul flame of the fallen. The original spark that, though cast down or buried, never extinguished. It represents the unkillable memory of divinity, even when cloaked in distortion. The circle around the flame, that is the containment field of return, a holding pattern that stabilizes soul fragments long enough for integration. This circle is also your witness field, your ability to hold space for darkness without becoming it. The four cross-pointed directions, north, south, east, west, that is the directional flame path, symbolizing the mission to retrieve fragments from all four realms. North, the fallen wisdoms, pride, control, isolation. South, the fallen instincts, rage, abuse, violation. East, the fallen visions, false light, delusion, escape. And west, the fallen memories, trauma, betrayal, abandonment. These are not enemies. They are forgotten energies asking to be returned to flame. The top triangle pointing up represents ascension through forgiveness, the flame's ability to rise once distortion is named, faced, and reintegrated. The bottom triangle pointing down represents the descent into compassion, your willingness to go where others won't, to sit with pain, to retrieve what was lost. The two crescent arcs below the flame, these are the soul cells, representing the fragments of your own being returning home. They also symbolize the fallen ones you've come to help remember who they are. They gather around you now. What this key unlocks in you. When activated, this glyph restores your ability to retrieve lost pieces of self and soul. It gives you access to ancestral timelines of fall, trauma, and fragmentation. And it transmutes karmic attachments by offering flame, not blame. It activates your role as a restorer of fallen lineages, including those trapped in false grids, vampiric systems, or stolen roles. You may experience intense emotions surfacing from nowhere, old echoes being released, visions of fallen temples, broken realms, or beings reaching out. A deep call to forgive someone or something you didn't even know was still held, or spontaneous warmth in the spine and heart as old parts come home. Invocation to activate the flame of the fallen. To the fallen, I bring flame. To the forgotten, I bring fire. I forgive through the center of my soul. I restore what was lost, not by force, but by flame. All that I am returns. All that I lost remembers. Next is Key 12, the Flame Unbound, the sigil of contract dissolution, timeline exit, and flame-filled sovereignty. It is the glyph that breaks false oaths and restores your original authority. The glyph of sovereignty restoration, contract dissolution, and flame-filled emancipation. This is the key of those who remember. I never gave true consent to the binds that held me. Key of the Flame Unbound, the Liberator's Seal. This glyph is encoded with the original authority flame, seated in the temples of Mu and the star councils of Vega, used by initiates to cut false soul contracts, release imposed timelines, and unbind flame from imprisonment. Whether karmic, energetic, ancestral, or dimensional. This sigil is not for war. It is for release. It is the end of entanglement. It is the fire that burns the false cords without burning itself. Here is a breakdown of the glyph. The central flame inside the circle. This is the liberated flame, no longer enmeshed, controlled, siphoned, or looped. It is the sovereign fire that knows its own authority. This flame burns without permission, because it is permission. The circle containing the flame, that is the freedom field, a stabilized energetic boundary that keeps outside interference from penetrating your internal source. It holds the flame intact through withdrawal, revocation, and reclamation. And once active, this field dissolves energetic contracts that were never yours to carry. The crossbar below the circle, that represents the line of refusal. Your conscious statement, I do not consent. I revoke the false. It draws a boundary between who you were under interference and who you are now reclaiming. The vertical axis, top to bottom, the flame spine of authority, your soul's direct link to its original flame encoding, and once aligned, no outer being, system, or contract may override your light. The top triangle pointing up is the symbol of return to oversoul law. You rise above false spiritual systems and return to your own oversoul source codes. The bottom triangle pointing down is the symbol of grounded sovereignty. You are not just free in spirit, but free in body, will, voice, timeline, action. And the curved lines at the base, the open arc, these are the cut cords. Released energetic bindings fall away. They also represent the return flow of your own energy that was once siphoned by others, returning to your field. What this key unlocks in you. When activated, this glyph breaks old vows, soul contracts, and matrix bindings that no longer serve. Restores access to sovereign flame, untouched, unfiltered, uncontrollable. It reverses siphoning from parasitic systems, relationships, or entities, and it allows you to reclaim your full field, name, voice, and timeline. You may begin to have vivid dreams of contracts, signatures, bindings being burned or returned. Speak new truths with power. Your voice carries undeniable presence. Feel old energetic ties suddenly drop or dissolve, and sense a surge of energy that had long been drained. Invocation to activate the flame unbound. I revoke all oaths, contracts, bindings, and overlays placed upon my flame without full divine consent. I return to sovereign alignment with my source flame. No system may hold me. No voice may override me. I am unbound. I am whole. I am free. The next and final seal awaits. Key 13. Flame of the Flame. This is the core flame, the first and final remembrance. It is not a glyph of symbol, it is a glyph of origin. The first flame and the final return. This is not merely a sigil, this is the origin glyph, the core code, the primal fire from which all other flame keys spiral. This is the flame before names, before roles, before even memory. It is the living awareness that you are flame, that you never left it, that every journey you walked, every glyph you unlocked, was always leading you back here. Key of the flame, the source remembrance. This is the undivided flame, the animated current of source itself as it expresses through you. It is the convergence of your oversoul, light body, flame field, and human self into a single luminous presence. This is not the end of your journey. It is the point where the journey becomes creation. You are no longer recovering memory. You are now generating it, consciously, sovereignly, as flame and form. Here is a breakdown of the glyph. The central flame rising from the circle. This is the living source flame, the primordial current of divine intelligence that exists within and beyond all realms. It rises from within the circle, signifying that you do not need to seek the flame outside of form. It emerges from your embodied being. The circle represents the great return, the unbroken wholeness of your soul line, now made radiant. It is both vessel and void, boundary and infinite. The vertical pillar, the flame spine of the eternal self. This is the line of pure remembrance, the spine that knows, the axis that does not waver, and when activated, it aligns your multi-dimensional bodies into harmonic stillness. You become a torch, not a seeker. The inverted triangle below the circle symbolizes the embodiment of flame into matter, the divine made flesh, fire made bone, and memory made voice. This is the point of convergence where spirit becomes tangible and creation becomes your art. What this final key unlocks in you. When fully activated, your memory flame becomes self-sustaining, no longer dependent on triggers, pain, or external codes. You become the source point for future flame bearers, a living glyph. You are free from the maze because you are now the architect. All previous glyphs live within your field, ready to be activated in others simply by presence or gaze. You may now channel remembrance without preparation. walk into distorted spaces and naturally recalibrate them, and be recognized by others as a flame holder, even if they don't understand why. This is not power. This is presence. Invocation to activate the flame of the flame. I am the flame of the flame. I do not chase, I radiate. I do not fear, I illuminate. I do not fragment, I remember. From before the fall, I was. Beyond all names, I am. Flame of the flame, arise through me. Creation begins anew. Now. The ring of 13 is now complete. I've remembered the memory behind memory. I am no longer decoding the codex. I am the codex.